Star Wars: The Heart of the Jedi by Kenneth C. Flint. Chapter 12. The Millennium Falcon blasted away from the mountain base and up to the stratosphere. On either side of it flew a trio of the sleek X-Wing fighters from Wedge's escorting Gold Squadron. Once they had torn free of the planet's glowing cloak of atmosphere and plunged from some distance into reassuringly empty space, Han Solo went to work in the Falcon's cockpit. He sat bent forward in the pilot's seat while he painstakingly punched out a number series on the buttons of the control console. The console beeped and bopped. Bopped, really? I assumed that they beep and boop, not beep and bop. Under his playing fingers, like some shrilly pitched musical instrument. With a final and quite melodic little chord tapped out, Solo stopped, eyed the readout, and gave a nod of satisfaction. He got up, looking around to Chewie in the co-pilot seat. "Just keep an eye on things here, partner," he told the Wookiee. "She'll be flying herself for a while now. I'm going to fill in our royal passengers." He went out to the hatchway and along the short corridor to the central cabin. There, Gowan sat alone, playing a chess-like game against himself at the holographic games table. The 3D images of various monstrous beings that formed the playing pieces moved wearily around one another on the round game grid, feinting for positions. There were no direct assaults. Gowan's method of playing seemed to call for devious strategy, not violence. "Hey, Go, where's Leia?" Han asked, looking round for her. The man looked up to him. She just went to change." "Change?" Han repeated quizzically. "To what?" He was cut off abruptly as his eye was caught by a figure which appeared from another corridor. It was Leia, but a much transformed one. The tight braids were gone, replaced by a loose, soft fall of glowing chestnut hair. Her usual tunic and trousers had been exchanged for a long gown of lush, deep green, fitted to reveal her figure. Han stared at her with some surprise. This was by far the most feminine and alluring outfit he had yet seen her in, not including the revealing slave outfit once forced on her by Jabba the Hutt. Gowan reacted instantly. He arose and went to her, beaming in pleasure, speaking effusively. "My dear, you look positively lovely!" He put out his hands towards her. I'm coding him gay now. She took them, looking pleased by the compliment. "Do you really think so?" she asked. "It's seldom I get the chance to dress like this." "Oh, of course, of course!" He led her into the room like a courtier at a ball. "So much becoming to a woman of your beauty and status than that shapeless, shabby military garb." Han was still just taking her in. He stopped as she noted him. Her smile faded. She dropped Gowan's hand and turned towards him, her hands going to her hips. "What's wrong with you?" she demanded. "Huh?" Sudden off-guard Han. Nothing. No, it's great." Gowan spoke up proddingly. "I believe that the General came to inform us of something. Am I right, General?" "Oh, right," Han said, brought back to his purpose there. "I came to tell you I've locked in the destination coordinates. We're all set. Once we get out past the Foss Point beacon, we'll make the jump to lightspeed." "And how long the rendezvous from there?" Leia asked. "About 36 hours, he told her. We'd best get back to our studies then." "Oh, we'd best get back to our studies then," Gowan told her. "We've got to have determined our preliminary responses to any counter-demands the Imperial team might possibly make. Senator Valadian is a most wily negotiator." "He'll surely give us no concession he doesn't have to," Leia agreed. "We can't afford not to be fully prepared." "Good, that is—" He met her gaze with a probing one. "Unless you'd rather work in my quarters. It would be more—" He glanced around at Han. "Private. There." She also glanced at Solo, noting his eyes narrowing at his suggestion. "Here will be fine," she told Gowan. He shrugged and smiled. "I tried," he said, and went out of the room. Alone now, Leia looked to Han, and he looked to her. They stood apart for a few moments. He in open appraisal, she in clear discomfort under the scrutiny. "Will you please tell me what's wrong?" she finally asked earnestly. "Well, I don't know," he said in a musing tone, walking around her to get a view from all angles. I mean, I've seen you in a real gown before. I've just never seen you in anything quite this fine. It's not so fine as that, she protested. It's what I have to wear as a person of state. I'm an ambassador now. I represent you and our whole cause. He moved in closer and fingered the rich cloth of her sleeve. He looked up to her face and noted the soft blush in the cheeks, the subtly reddened lips, the accentuating highlights around the eyes. Are you wearing makeup? He asked accusingly. Of course I am, she said sharply. Why not? I'm also a woman. I know you men have forgotten. She turned away to stand by the table where the pieces from Goen's game sat frozen in their last position. In an irritated gesture, she poked at a bulbous hippo-like piece. The creature stomped forward to crush a hapless weasel-like pawn. The poor piece lay flattened. Han stepped up to the table across from her. Of course we remember you're a woman, Leia. Especially me. I'm just not sure you're the same one I know. He pushed a three-horned, rhino-ish beast forward. It skewered into her creature's bulging side with its long front horn. The punctured, hippo-like piece deflated like a balloon. Why are you acting this way? She said with frustration. This time her finger's push sent a dragon-like beast in to scorch the rhino-ish one to cinders, with a plume of blazing breath. You've been angry with me since we started this mission. Oh, well, sorry. Well, excuse me, princess. Oh, well, sorry. He sent a massive gorilla-like piece to seize and strangle the dragon, tying its long neck into a bowknot. Didn't mean to get you all roused up, princess. And that name, she said. Before all this, you hadn't called me that in a long time. Well, that's what you are, isn't it? He said bluntly. I mean, that's what all this comes down to. Doesn't it? A princess? And a guy like me? I'm not a princess, she told him with some heat. My parents, my planet, all of my own people are gone. Now I'm just Leia. He shook his head. No. You're still a part of that old ruling class. You always will be. And you should be too, he admitted grudgingly. It's important now. They need you. But me? Well, I'm like Luke. I'm like Luke said he was. Just a simple, backwards guy. A soldier of fortune who got his money any way he could. And is learning by hard knocks. How could I even think there'd be anything between us? You'd better off with a guy like Goen. Goen? She said, clearly jolted by the suggestion. But... Come on, princess, he scoffed. Don't say you haven't thought of it. You two fit in together like two spritz pores in a pod. I've seen him look at you. I've seen you look back at him. How can you say that? She cried, now in an outrage. You know that the only feelings I have are for you. A finger jabbed a long serpent piece to uncoil the gorilla and squeeze it to oblivion. Look here. You and me have been through a lot together, he returned. We've helped each other out, leaned on each other when things were getting desperate. We had to. But you don't have to confuse that with love. Come on, that's so out of character for Han. Well, okay, fine. He did the same thing with Luke at the beginning, but there was actually a good reason to. Here he's just being a beta bitch. He prodded a last, scorpion-like piece forward to drive its sting through the flat head of the serpent. As the snake thrashed on its death throes, he started to turn from the table. Wait, she said, an urgency replacing the ire in her tone. Things have moved fast. There's been much changes. My feelings about things may be confused, but... A throat-clearing sound brought them looking around to see Goen returning. I was going to save the game for later, he said, eyeing the devastation on the game board. But I see someone's finished it. He looked to them, adding pointedly, I certainly hope someone won. He sat down at the table between them. Very well, then. All ready, Leia, he said briskly, looking up to her. He glanced to Han. Thank you, General, he added, a cavalierly dismissing note in his voice. But if you don't mind, we really have to work. You can go about your duties. Han looked from Goen to her. Is this right, Leia? He asked. Do you and he have to work now? There's no choice, she said reasoningly. We have to have everything ready. It's important. To all of us. You said so yourself. He looked from her to a smugly grinning Goen. Yeah, he said in a conceding way. I guess I did. He turned and stalked off towards the cockpit. Han! Leia called after him, feeling as if something important was getting away from her here. He hesitated an instant at the hatchway, but then went on, out of sight. Never mind him, said Goen dismissingly. He took hold of her hand. He has his task, and we have ours. He tugged her down beside him at the table. Now, let's plan. Forward in the cockpit, Han Solo was grousing aloud to the Wookiee. Curse that greasy Goen, Chewie. If we've got to live with him till... He stopped short, staring ahead. It was the Golden of C-3PO who was at his pilot's seat, eyes fixed on the ship's instrument. Chewie? What's he doing here? Han asked the Wookiee. His hairy first mate only shrugged and snorted in ignorance. I am merely examining the ship's workings to see that all is correct, the droid casually supplied. Really? Well, I thought that was my job here. I don't want you changing things. As polite as usual, 3PO said in a voice colored just by the faintest sarcastic tinge. He took his time rising from the seat and turned to face Solo. Don't your diplomat folk below need you? Han said. Why don't you go down and interrupt their little head-to-head? I'm certain when they have need of my skills they will request them, the protocol droid replied. Well, look then. If you're bored, I can find something for you to do. Some menial and grubby little task too, no doubt, 3PO said. Well, I'm afraid there will be no more of that. Oh, really? Said Han. And why not? Our relationship has changed, the droid told him in a brusque lecturing tone. I am no longer going to play as your slave or servant. My service is now to Princess Leia and this mission only. I am much too intelligent and valuable to be utilized otherwise. I will thank you to consider that factor from this point on. With this, he pushed past Han and marched out of the cockpit. Well, I'm blowed, said Han, looking after him. You think you know your comrades. The Wookiee nodded and made a low, rumbling sound of commiseration. Han moved to his seat and plopped himself down into it with certain wariness. I don't know, Chewie, he said in a perplexed way. Luke, Leia, and now him? He shook his head. Things are changing so fast. I don't know who anybody is anymore. The Wookiee made a growl of protest at this, and Han quickly gave him a smile. Sorry, I meant except for you, old pal, he assured. Far off the Falcon's starboard bow, a small planet marked by high, rough pinnacles of rock slipped into view from the background of stars. Tory Point, Han announced, sitting forward and taking hold of the controls. Get ready for a course correction and a jump to light speed. We'll be doing a bit of fancy flying for a while now, he grinned. This should be fun. As the Wookiee moved smartly to adjust controls, Han slammed the levers forward. The Millennium Falcon came about and snapped ahead to full speed, flashing away across the sea of space to slash a streaked trail of silver white. In only moments, the ship had shrunk to a dot of light, leaving only the empty vista of blackness and stars. The night sky above the cliffs was ablaze with the thick scattering of scintillating stars. The only other light came from the small gold cone set up by a small, but cheerfully glowing fire. Its light faintly revealed the huddled mass of Obi-Wan Kenobi's house not far away. Close to the fire sat Luke and R2-D2. The droid was using its articulated arm to push more sticks into the blaze and provide a more suitable light for its intent comrade. Luke sat across from the fire with his mechanical companion, staring searchingly at the milk crystal bowl, which he held in his hands. He held the thing up, turning it this way and that, studying the manner in which the golden glow played in rainbows of iridescent color against its smooth, curved outsides. A definite frustration was revealed in the young man's frowning expression. He sighed aloud, drawing the droid's gleaming eye to him. It squealed out in an inquiring way. No, nothing yet, R2. Luke answered. He turned the hollow globe over to examine the bottom. There isn't any kind of blemish, cut, or crack on it. The glass is perfect. The droid squeaked and tootled again. Inside? Luke translated. He turned the sphere around, feeling it over carefully with his hands. No, he said in exasperation. No way to open it either. He held the enigmatic object up to the light again. I just don't understand, R2. Ben said that the key to Angorothea could be found in this thing, but he didn't give me any idea what it was, or even a clue how to find it. So how did he think... He stopped abruptly, a light of realization sweeping the shadows of bafflement from his face. Wait a minute, R2, he said with excitement. This is part of it too. The test of a true Jedi. He knew that this had to be it. If the power of the Force truly was within him, he ought to be able to get the secret out of the thing when no one else could. Obi-Wan certainly wouldn't have left a key so important around for just anyone to find. Oh, I really messed up that sentence. He gazed at the sphere hard again for some moments in new consideration. His feelings told him there was only one means to finding the truth. He was going to have to concentrate his powers on the sphere. He looked around for an appropriate spot, then moved back a bit and set the sphere down on a level place between himself and the fire. He sat cross-legged before it, hands upon knees, and fixed his gaze on it intently. His face drew into taut lines as he focused himself. He had to remember what Yoda had taught him about control. He had to draw upon the energy, reach out, feel his connection to this thing. The power of the Force was with him. He could not doubt that. The power was in him. In him. In him. As this litany ran on through his thoughts, he put his whole mind and will to the task. His body tensed, seemed to vibrate slightly with his focusing power. The droid watched with a seeming concentration of its own, giving a small, worried whine. The sphere at first was lit only by the reflection of the firelight, but soon a luminescence began to rise within it, overcoming the gold glow until it shone out into the darkness like a silver moon. Clearly, Luke was having an effect on it. He lifted his hands from his knees, stretching them out to it in a gesture that seemed both of welcome and summons. In a firm, clear voice, he spoke out his request. Show me the heart of the Jedi. Uh-oh. Is Luke doing a magical girl transformation here? The glowing sphere swelled upward and outward, blooming into a huge ball, filling the space between Luke and the fire, looming high over him. The startled droid squealed in alarm and jerked away, lifting its eye to stare upward. Unaffected himself, Luke calmly stared into the light. He watched as it altered from a solid glow to a swirling translucence. He watched as, within the billows, blue silver clouds coalesced and then thinned, showing a globe's solid surface below. Here, vast glinting areas of a deep blue appeared, separated by several smaller areas of mottled browns and greens. Some inner knowledge told him what this brilliant object he gazed on truly was. Angorothea, Luke breathed. Then a new structure appeared atop the pattern of seas and continents. It was a gridwork of uncountable fine threads running here and there to various points, connecting, linking, crossing, intertwining in a complex woven fabric that seemed to bind all into a whole tapestry, and many threads shot away from it to the surrounding space, as if stretching out to touch other worlds. It's the lines of energy, said Luke. I can see them. In one ocean section near an isle on the fringe of a ragged continent, a particularly large number of the energy lines fanned out from a single point. It was an odd concentration to see in a sector so empty otherwise, and the point of light was singular too. It was the clear, brilliant red of a blazing ruby, and the glow pulsed brighter with the slow, steady rhythm of a beating heart. Elation filled Luke as he stared at the spot. R2, he called. Do you see the bright red point? The droid whistled in affirmative. Good. From my memory of the charts of that part of space, those larger planets near it to me must be Aaron and Alban. You've flown out further than I've explored. Can you identify that spot? Can you tell me exactly where that is? There was a pause as the droid considered, its electronic mind swiftly shuffling through thousands of images of space, seen from multiple angles. Soon it squeaked and tootled excitedly. You have seen a planet out there, Luke translated with excitement. A very small one? It tweeted affirmative. Could you guide me there? Luke asked. The droid gave an assuring beep. With that, Luke relaxed his concentration. His tension eased. As it did, the light faded, and the glowing globe shrank down to become only a milk crystal sphere again. He picked it up, eyeing it in satisfaction. Well, we've got it now, he said with an air of triumph. The ice sea, that's where we have to go. The droid made a low, gurgling noise that most distinctly conveyed deep concern. Yes, I know, R2, Luke answered, realizing he hadn't been considering his companion. It's a long way, and likely dangerous. Luke considered their little spacecraft perched nearby and shook his head. The problem is that X-Wing of ours isn't ideal for long trips, and there's no backup hyperdrive if things go wrong. We need something better. He looked out into the darkness, considering the options, but he already knew the only answer. If they had to find a stouter ship, there was just one decent place in that part of the quadrant to look, no matter how dangerous. It was that spaceport of outcast galactic wrongdoers and rascals, known as Mos Eisley.